Much, Senator Murphy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Great to see you, Ambassador. Thanks for your continued service to the country. Wanted to try to hit a couple hotspots in the Middle East in the time that I have. First, I want to talk about Lebanon, a country that right now doesn't occupy a lot of oxygen in this town, but were it to disintegrate, would be our and the world's obsession for the next decade. Right now, the economy is in free fall. The currency is virtually worthless. The country's economy is built on a pyramid scheme that enriches a set of elites, which have sort of forced a sort of a frozen status quo for years. Question is, what is the best way for the United States to use its aid to try to promote the type of reform that will help this country sort of get back on a path to sustainability? How can we change the current dynamic? For instance, should we be considering perhaps a narrower approach? I mean, my sense is that we have tried to put broad conditions on our aid. Should we be thinking about focusing, for instance, on one sector of reform, like banking reform, and narrowing our ask? What we are doing today doesn't seem to be moving the needle. What would you suggest should be our approach to using our aid in Lebanon as leverage to try to rescue this country from a crisis today that does, frankly, within the next year, threaten to propel the entire nation into chaos, continued economic free fall, and potentially civil war?
Would that there were a silver bullet for the gravity and breadth of the crisis unfolding there. I guess I'd just offer a couple associations and look forward to maybe talking with you more about this. But I mean, first of all, Lebanon is a place where we have been more successful than we have, for example, on a country like Yemen in multilateralizing our response and in getting Europeans and others to step up. I think if we were to go in the direction that you describe, a sector-based approach, it would be essential that other sectors not be left behind. Second point, which again is true of every country we've talked about so far today, which is governance. Absent the kind of political unity, you don't even see garbage collection occurring, right? State formation, state erosion ends up being critical in terms of making the partnership work for the Lebanese people. And then the third and final point is there are huge demands being placed on global humanitarian emergency assistance, as you well know. Tigray now alongside South Sudan, alongside Yemen, Syria, Venezuela, we could go on. If just looking back a couple of years, you would not have thought that Lebanon would potentially find itself on that list. And so as the USAID administrator, I'm both interested very much in governance and economic development, but we are also in a situation where we're having to provide emergency humanitarian funding because that is how weak the governance and the ability to deliver for the people has become.
Let me turn to Gaza. According to the UN, the main border crossing that we use to get humanitarian goods into Gaza is operating only at about 50% capacity right now due to Israeli delays and restrictions. UNRWA hasn't been allowed to get insulin and syringes in since October of last year. UNICEF has been barred from importing epoxy into Gaza. What are we doing right now with the Israelis to try to ease these restrictions? And do you have any hope that there might be the opportunity to reopen another crossing? I know this is a priority for this administration. We want to make sure that only the right things get into Gaza. At the same time, we are going to repeat history over and over and over again if we don't find a way to relieve the legitimate humanitarian suffering there.
And maybe if I could, Senator Murphy, just to take this occasion to respond to something Ranking Member Risch talked about at the close of our exchange, which is I think we're all on the same page in wanting to ensure that our funding goes to the intended beneficiaries. And given the Taylor Force Act, given, of course, prohibitions on any funding going to Hamas. That is what USAID and our partners on the ground do. We live by American law and the rules that have been put on the books, and they've been put on the books for a very good reason. So I think part of what we need to do is unlock some of the funding that is going to be very important for the reconstruction effort and for economic development. With our Israeli interlocutors, there seems broad support for that. There's a recognition that economic deprivation and despair helps, create a receptive environment for radicalization, and that's not something it's in anybody's security or economic interest to see happen. And so I think, I hope we'll soon have an ambassador in Israel. Again, the nomination is up here, and I hope, like others, we'll move forward so that we'll have the ability to maintain that dialogue. As it relates to Gaza, it's really important to remember, in addition to all of our vetting, which is, we have a third layer of vetting for anything that goes into Gaza for obvious reasons, but also COGAT, the Israeli system by which supplies go through, is there as well as a check, on what goes in. And you're right, that can produce delays, and that is something, again, in terms of people not getting the resources that they need, that is not in anybody's interest. But it also should offer some assurance for those who are concerned about assistance not reaching, again, its intended destination, that we have systems in place, again, to make sure that the humanitarian development assistance goes for its intended purpose.
Thank you very much.